The crystal chandelier caught the light just right as Callum Ashford snapped his fingers. Twice, sharp, like he was summoning a dog. Thea Moreau paused mid-step, her hand steady on the tray of artisan cocktails destined for table 12. She'd seen this type before. Designer suit that cost more than most people's cars. Watch that could fund a small country. That particular brand of entitlement that money bought in bulk. You. His voice cut through the ambient jazz. I've been waiting 15 minutes for my entree, 15. Do you have any idea who I am? Thea turned slowly, her expression a perfect mask of professional courtesy. She knew exactly who he was. Callum Ashford, real estate mogul, 35 years old, worth somewhere north of $800 million. His face had been plastered across Forbes, Bloomberg, the Wall Street Journal. She'd actually sat across from him at a charity gala 3 months ago, though he'd never noticed her then, too busy holding court with senators and CEOs. Funny how a server's uniform made you invisible. I apologize for the delay, sir. Her voice was honey smooth, measured. The kitchen is running behind this evening. I'll check on your order immediately. Running behind? He leaned back in his chair, a smirk playing at his lips. At $200 a plate? That's unacceptable. Get me your manager, now. The couple at the adjacent table had stopped eating, forks suspended in midair. The restaurant, L'Étoile, one of Manhattan's finest, had gone conspicuously quiet. Even the pianist seemed to be playing softer, like the keys themselves were holding their breath. Thea met his gaze head-on, and for just a fraction of a second, something flickered there. Recognition? No, impossible. She'd been careful. The brown contacts hid her distinctive gray eyes. Her dark hair was pinned back, unremarkable. The name tag read Thea M., nothing more. Certainly nothing that would connect her to Thea Moreau Delacroix, heiress to the Delacroix hotel empire. The woman who owned the building this restaurant occupied, along with 47 others in the tri-state area. Of course, Mr. Ashford. She emphasized his name just enough to let him know she knew it. I'll get the manager right away. In the meantime, may I offer you a complimentary drink while you wait? His eyes narrowed slightly. You know my name. I make it my business to know my guests. She smiled then, just a hint of something sharp beneath the sweetness. Especially the ones who make such memorable entrances. Before he could respond, she turned on her heel and walked toward the kitchen, her posture perfect, her steps unhurried. She could feel his eyes boring into her back, feel the weight of his irritation like a physical thing. Good, let him stew. Let him think he'd won this round. What Callum Ashford didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was that the manager he was about to meet would be delivering more than just an apology. Much more. Behind the kitchen door, Thea pulled out her phone. One text sent to her actual restaurant manager. Table 7. The usual show. Then bring me the check presenter with my personal card inside. It's time. She smoothed her apron, checked her reflection in the stainless steel refrigerator, and allowed herself the smallest smile. She'd been playing this game for 6 months now, working the floor of her own restaurant, watching, learning, seeing how the other half behaved when they thought no one important was watching. Tonight, the game was about to change. Marcus Brennan, the floor manager, a man Thea had personally hired 2 years ago, appeared at table 7 within 90 seconds. His expression was apologetic perfection, his posture deferential. He'd done this dance before. Mr. Ashford, I deeply apologize for the inconvenience. Marcus's voice carried just the right amount of concern. Your entree will be out momentarily. Please allow me to comp your meal this evening. Callum waved a dismissive hand. It's not about the money. It's about competence. That waitress, he gestured vaguely in Thea's direction. She stood near the bar, polishing wine glasses with methodical precision, close enough to hear every word. She has an attitude. Maybe if your staff spent less time being clever and more time doing their jobs, establishments like this wouldn't be failing. Failing. The word slipped out before Thea could stop it. She set down the glass, turned. I'm sorry, did you say failing? Marcus shot her a warning glance, but she ignored it. This was the part she'd been waiting for. Callum's eyebrows rose. Excuse me? I'm speaking to the manager, and I'm curious about your assessment. Thea moved closer, her movements fluid, controlled. L'Étoile has a 6-month waiting list for reservations. We turned away 300 guests last week alone. Our revenue is up 42% year over year. So I'm wondering what metrics you're using to define failure. The restaurant had gone silent again. Marcus looked like he wanted to crawl under the nearest table. Callum, however, looked intrigued. Dangerously so. You memorize statistics for a restaurant where you serve drinks? His tone was mocking, but something had shifted in his eyes. Interest, maybe. Or calculation. I memorize a lot of things. Thea held his gaze. Including the fact that you tried to buy this building 8 months ago. Offered $60 million. Got turned down flat. Must have stung, losing to, what did the Times call it? An anonymous buyer with deeper pockets and better taste. Callum stood slowly, his 6'2" frame unfolding with predatory grace. Who the hell are you? I'm the waitress who's about to bring you your check. Thea smiled, sweet as arsenic. Your entree just arrived, by the way. Wagyu ribeye, medium rare with truffle butter. Exactly as you ordered. Marcus, would you mind plating it for Mr. Ashford? Marcus nodded, grateful for the escape, and disappeared toward the kitchen. Callum didn't sit back down. He stood there, studying her like she was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. You're not just a waitress. Everyone's just something until you look closer. Thea tilted her head. You should try it sometime. Looking closer, you might be surprised what you've been missing. Is that right? He stepped closer, invading her space deliberately. Power play, intimidation tactic. She'd seen it 1,000 times in boardrooms. You're not intimidated by me at all, are you? Thea didn't back away, didn't flinch. Should I be? You're just a man who mistakes money for power and volume for authority. I've dealt with worse before breakfast. Careful. His voice dropped lower. You don't know who you're talking to. Oh, but I do. Callum Ashford. Started with Daddy's hedge fund money. Turned 20 million into 800. Real estate mostly. Buying distressed properties, flipping them for profit. You're ruthless, efficient, and completely accustomed to getting your way. She paused. How am I doing so far? His jaw tightened. You've done your homework. I always do, she smiled. Your food's getting cold, Mr. Ashford. Shame to waste a $200 steak. She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. Wait, it wasn't a command this time. Almost a request. What's your last name? Thea looked back over her shoulder, that same sharp smile playing at her lips. Why, planning to get me fired? Good luck with that. No, I'm planning to figure you out. Some puzzles aren't meant to be solved by men who think snapping their fingers is communication. She gestured to his table. Enjoy your meal, sir. I'll be back with your check shortly. And trust me, you're going to want to read it very, very carefully. Reed opened the leather folder casually, expecting to see zeros across the receipt. What he found instead made his breath catch. The bill was indeed comped, but tucked beside it was a business card. Heavy stock, gold-embossed lettering that caught the candlelight. Sloan Bancroft, founder and CEO, Bancroft Hospitality International below that, an address he recognized immediately. The Bancroft Building, 40 stories of steel and glass overlooking Boston Harbor. Headquarters to a restaurant empire that spanned 6 countries and generated close to $3 billion in annual revenue. His eyes scanned the card 3 times, his brain refusing to process what he was seeing. Bancroft, Sloan Bancroft, the woman Forbes had called the most aggressive acquirer in the hospitality industry, the woman who'd outbid him for a Miami property last year, the woman who'd beaten him to contracts in London, Singapore, and Dubai. The waitress he'd just humiliated was Sloan fucking Bancroft. No. The word came out strangled. Graham looked up from his phone, concerned. Reed. What's wrong? Reed flipped the card over. Handwritten on the back in elegant script. You wanted the truth, Mr. Hartwell. Here it is. I own this restaurant. I own 16 others in Boston. I've been working undercover for 6 months to understand how my staff are treated by people exactly like you. The wine spill? Your fault. You reached for your phone without looking. But you were so certain you were right, so convinced of your own importance that you couldn't imagine being wrong. Actions have consequences. Poor performance has consequences. Consider this your lesson in humility. P.S. Those 3 properties you've been trying to acquire? I just bought the buildings. All of them. Closed this morning. You'll receive formal notice on Monday. S.B. The card slipped from Reed's fingers. Around him, the restaurant continued its elegant rhythm. Crystal glasses clinking, soft laughter, the gentle scrape of silverware on china. But his world had just tilted violently off its axis. He'd made her apologize. He'd called her incompetent. He'd lectured her about consequences in front of a client, in front of dozens of witnesses who, he now realized with growing horror, probably knew exactly who she was. Reed. Graham's voice was tight. Please tell me that's not what I think it is. Reed couldn't speak. His eyes tracked across the dining room, finding Sloane standing near the bar. She'd taken off her apron. Her hair was down now, falling in dark waves over her shoulders. Those eyes, he'd thought they were brown under the dim lighting, but now he could see they were amber. Sharp and predatory as a hawk's, she was watching him, waiting. Their eyes met across the crowded restaurant, and Reed saw something flicker in her expression. Not triumph exactly, something more complicated. She raised her wine glass slightly. A toast? A challenge? Then she turned away, greeting a couple who'd just entered. The man kissed both her cheeks, European style. The woman embraced her like an old friend. These were her people, her world, a world where she was powerful, respected, feared, and he'd treated her like she was nothing. Graham let out a low whistle. That's Sloane Bancroft's card. Jesus Christ, Reed, do you know what you just did? Reed knew exactly what he'd done. The question was, what the hell was he going to do about it? He stood abruptly, the chair scraping against hardwood. Several diners glanced over. Sloane's back was still turned, but he could see the slight stiffening of her shoulders. She knew he was coming. Reed, don't... Graham started, but Reed was already moving. Sloane felt him approach before she heard him. There was a shift in the air, a tension that made the couple she'd been chatting with glance over her shoulder nervously. Excuse me, she said smoothly to them. I need to handle something. She turned just as Reed reached her, close enough that she could see the muscle working in his jaw, the barely controlled fury in his gray eyes. Or was it fury? There was something else there, too. Something that looked almost like respect. We need to talk. His voice was low, controlled, dangerous. Do we? Sloane tilted her head, genuinely curious. I thought I gave you exactly what you asked for. The truth. All of it. You made me look like a fool. No, Mr. Hartwell, you made yourself look like a fool. I just held up a mirror. She gestured toward the exit. There's a private room in the back if you'd prefer not to continue providing entertainment for my guests. For a moment, she thought he might refuse. His pride was clearly warring with his business sense. Finally, he nodded curtly. The private dining room was small but elegant. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor. A single table set for intimate dinners. Sloane closed the door behind them, leaned against it with her arms crossed. Those properties, Reed said immediately. When did you close? This morning. 9 a.m. She watched his face carefully. You made your offer 3 weeks ago. $62 million for all 3 leases. I paid $70. That's insane. They're not worth $70. They're worth whatever I'm willing to pay to keep them out of your hands. She moved to the windows, looked out at the city lights reflecting off dark water. You've been systematically trying to dismantle my Boston portfolio for 18 months, Reed. Did you think I wouldn't notice? It's business. It's personal. She turned back to face him. You don't just want my properties. You want to prove you're better than me, smarter, more ruthless. That's not... He stopped, jaw tight. Okay, maybe there's some of that. The admission surprised her. Why? Because you beat me. The words came out hard, like they hurt to say. Dubai 2 years ago. That hotel acquisition. I'd been working that deal for 6 months. Had everything lined up. Then you swooped in at the last second, offered 10% more, and took it. That's how business works. I know that. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. But you didn't just beat me. You humiliated me. Made me look incompetent in front of my investors. So yes, I've been trying to return the favor. Sloane studied him for a long moment. Reed Hartwell, billionaire real estate mogul, actually looked uncomfortable, vulnerable even. It was oddly humanizing. The difference, she said quietly, is that I beat you in a boardroom. You tried to break me in my own restaurant by humiliating someone you thought was powerless. That landed. She could see it in the way his shoulders dropped slightly, the way his eyes closed for just a second. "You're right." His voice was rough. "I was wrong. Not just about the wine, about everything. The way I spoke to you, the things I said. Are you apologizing?" "I'm trying to." "Trying isn't the same as doing." Sloane kept her voice level, but something in her chest loosened slightly. She hadn't expected this. An excuse, maybe. Justification. Not this raw attempt at genuine contrition. "I know." Reed moved closer, stopping a few feet away, respecting her space this time. "I'm not good at apologies. I'm good at winning, at being right, at getting what I want, and when you can't, I usually just try harder until I do." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "Healthy, right?" Despite herself, Sloane felt her lips twitch. "Sounds exhausting." "You have no idea." He leaned against the table. 6 months. You worked here for 6 months just to see how your staff get treated? I needed to understand why turnover was up 20% year over year. My executives kept giving me reports, but the data didn't add up. She moved closer to him. So I went undercover. Found out the real problem. People like me, not just you. But yes. She pulled out a chair, sat. "Do you know what the #1 reason for quitting was? Disrespect, not pay, not hours. Just basic human dignity. 83 employees said they'd rather work for less money somewhere else than endure another night of being belittled." The words hung between them like an indictment. "I never thought about it that way." Reed admitted quietly, "I've spent so long fighting to get to the top that I forgot what it's like to feel powerless." "Did you feel powerless before?" "I started with money. Trust fund kid. But my father made sure I knew I had to prove myself. Every deal, every acquisition, it's like I'm still trying to prove I deserve to be here." Sloane recognized that drive. She'd felt it herself. "So you treat everyone like they're in your way." Apparently, he met her eyes. "I really am sorry. Not because you're Sloane Bancroft. Not because you bought those properties. But because you were right. I was cruel to someone I thought couldn't fight back. That's not who I want to be." The sincerity surprised her. She'd expected anger, maybe embarrassment. This genuine remorse was unexpected. "So what now?" she asked. "Now?" Reed's smile was self-deprecating. "Now I go home and contemplate all my life choices. Maybe take a long look in that mirror you mentioned. And the properties. Keep them. They're yours. Fair and square." He straightened. "I'll back off. No more hostile moves against Bancroft hospitality." "Just like that?" "Just like that." Reed held her gaze. "Consider it penance. Or maybe just growth." Sloane studied him. This man who'd walked into a restaurant 2 hours ago radiating arrogance and entitlement. Now he stood before her, stripped of pretense, offering something that powerful men rarely gave, genuine accountability. "You know what's interesting?" She leaned back in her chair. "In the 6 months I've been doing this, you're the first person who's actually apologized. Really apologized, I mean. Not the 'I'm sorry you feel that way' kind. The real thing. That's depressing. It's revealing." She tapped her fingers on the table. "Most people, when confronted with their behavior, they double down. Get defensive. Blame circumstances. You could have walked out of here furious, called your lawyers, tried to make my life difficult. I considered it." His honesty was startling. "For about 30 seconds in there, I wanted to burn your whole empire down. What stopped you?" Reed was quiet for a moment, his gray eyes distant. "My mother. She was a waitress when my father met her. Worked 3 jobs to put herself through nursing school. She used to come home with stories about the customers who treated her like dirt." He looked down at his hands. "She died when I was 15. Cancer, and I just realized, standing in that dining room, holding your card, that she would have been ashamed of who I became tonight." The vulnerability in his voice cut through Sloane's carefully maintained armor. She knew about loss, about the drive to prove yourself, about becoming so focused on winning that you forgot why you started fighting in the first place. "She would have been proud of you apologizing," Sloane said softly. "Maybe." He met her eyes again. "Look, I know I can't undo what I did out there. Can't take back the things I said. But I'd like to try to do better. Better how? I don't know yet. That's the honest answer." He moved around the table, pulled out the chair across from her, gestured silently for permission. When she nodded, he sat. Maybe I start by actually seeing people. Not just as obstacles or opportunities, but as people. Revolutionary concept. A real smile broke across his face, not the arrogant smirk from earlier, but something genuine and surprisingly warm. I'm a work in progress. Aren't we all? Sloane found herself smiling back. Dangerous territory. Reed Hartwell was her competitor, her adversary, the man who'd spent 18 months trying to dismantle her Boston operations. He was also, she was discovering, more complex than she'd given him credit for. Can I ask you something? Reed leaned forward slightly. Why hospitality? With your resources, your business acumen, you could have gone into anything. Tech, finance, real estate. He paused meaningfully. Why restaurants? Because food brings people together. The answer came easily. Because a great meal, a perfect night out. It's one of the few truly democratic luxuries. Rich, poor, powerful, powerless, everyone needs to eat. Everyone deserves to feel welcome somewhere. That's why you were so angry. It wasn't just about me being rude. It was about me violating the whole point of what you've built. Now you're getting it. They sat in silence for a moment, the tension between them shifting into something neither had anticipated. Not hostility, something else entirely. I have a proposition, Reed said finally. Sloane raised an eyebrow. I'm almost afraid to hear this. Let me make it up to you. Not the property deal, that ship has sailed. But the rest of it. He leaned back and she could see him shifting into business mode. I want to partner with you on something. Partner? She couldn't keep the skepticism from her voice. Reed, an hour ago you were demanding I grovel. Now you want to work together? I know how it sounds. But hear me out. His intensity was back, but different now, focused. You've been studying customer behavior, staff treatment, the whole hospitality ecosystem from the inside. That's invaluable data. Research most companies would kill for. And I own 73 commercial properties. 32 of them have restaurant spaces. Most are underperforming or vacant because I don't know the first thing about food service. He spread his hands. You have the expertise. I have the real estate. What if we combine them? Sloane's mind was already racing through the possibilities. His locations were prime. She'd coveted several of them for years. But partnering with Reed Hartwell? The man was brilliant, yes. Driven, absolutely. But also unpredictable, volatile, and apparently capable of genuine growth. That's a big ask, she said carefully, especially considering our history. I know. Which is why I'm proposing a trial. One property. We collaborate on a single restaurant concept. If it works, we expand. If it doesn't, we walk away. No hard feelings. Reed, no hard feelings isn't exactly our strong suit. He laughed, a real laugh, warm and unexpected. Fair point. Okay, revise terms. If it doesn't work, we walk away, and you get to tell everyone in the industry that I'm an incompetent buffoon who couldn't manage a lemonade stand. Tempting. Sloane found herself considering it seriously. A partnership with Hartwell Properties could accelerate her expansion by 5 years. But it would also mean working closely with Reed. Very closely. And she was starting to realize that might be more dangerous than she'd initially thought. What kind of concept? She asked. That's where you come in. You're the visionary. I'm just the guy with the buildings. He pulled out his phone, swiped through several screens, then turned it toward her. This property, Soho, corner lot, 3,500 square feet. Been vacant for 8 months because I can't figure out what to do with it. Sloane studied the images. High ceilings, natural light, street access on 2 sides. Her fingers itched to start sketching floor plans. It could work, she admitted reluctantly. So that's a maybe? That's a I'll think about it. She stood, smoothing down her uniform out of habit. I need time to consider whether I want to go into business with someone who called me incompetent 2 hours ago. Reed stood as well, and suddenly the room felt smaller. He was tall, she'd noticed before, but not like this. Not with less than 2 feet between them, and his full attention focused entirely on her. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I think you might be the most competent person I've ever met. And definitely the smartest. You played me perfectly tonight. I wasn't playing you. I was being myself. Exactly, his eyes held hers. That's what makes it perfect. Sloane felt the shift in the air between them. That electric charge that had nothing to do with business and everything to do with proximity, chemistry, the kind that made smart people make very unwise decisions. She stepped back deliberately. I should get back to the dining room. Right, of course. Reed didn't move immediately, and for a second she thought he might say something else. Instead, he reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a different business card. Not the corporate one. This looked personal. My private number. If you decide you want to discuss the partnership, or if you just want to tell me what an ass I was tonight. Either way, Sloane took the card, their fingers brushing briefly. I'll add it to the collection of ways people have tried to apologize to me. Is it working? The apology? She considered lying, maintaining her walls, keeping him at a distance where he belonged, in the category of rivals and cautionary tales. But something about the genuine uncertainty in his voice stopped her. It's a start, she said honestly. The real test is whether you mean it. Whether this, she gestured between them, is genuine or just another business strategy. You think I'd fake contrition to get a deal? I think you're smart enough to pivot when circumstances change. I think you saw an opportunity in your mistake. She tilted her head. The question is whether you're also genuine enough to follow through when it's not convenient. Reed absorbed that, nodded slowly. Fair. I'd probably wonder the same thing. He moved toward the door, then paused with his hand on the handle. Can I ask you something? Off the record? Depends on the question. Why did you let me see you? The real you, I mean. He turned back to face her. You could have just had Marcus handle everything. Sent me the card anonymously. Made your point without ever revealing yourself. But you didn't. Sloane had been asking herself the same question. Because I wanted to see your reaction. Whether you doubled down on the arrogance or whether there was something salvageable underneath. And? The jury's still out. She smiled slightly. But I'm willing to keep the case open. I'll take that as a win. Reed opened the door and the sounds of the restaurant flooded in. Conversation, laughter, the clink of glasses. Normal life, continuing as if the last hour hadn't turned both their worlds sideways. Thank you, Sloane. For the lesson. For the honesty. For not completely destroying me when you had every right to. The night's still young, she deadpanned. He laughed again, and she was struck by how different he looked when he smiled like that. Younger, less guarded, almost likable. Dangerous thoughts. I'll call you, Reed said, about the property. If you're interested. Maybe I will be. Maybe I won't. She crossed her arms back in control. But Reed, if we do this, if I even consider partnering with you, you need to understand something. What's that? I don't give second chances. This apology, this conversation, this opportunity, it only happens once. If you revert to the man who walked in here tonight, snapping his fingers and demanding apologies, we're done permanently. The lightness left his expression, replaced by something serious, determined. Understood. One shot. I won't waste it. He left, and Sloane stood alone in the private dining room, his card still in her hand. Through the window, she watched his figure disappear into the Boston night. What the hell was she doing? 3 days later, Sloane walked into the Soho property Reed had mentioned. She told herself she was just curious, that looking at real estate didn't mean she was agreeing to anything, that she was a businesswoman evaluating an opportunity, nothing more. She was an excellent liar, just not to herself. Reed was already there, dressed down in jeans and a Henley instead of his usual suit. He was measuring something on the far wall, a pencil tucked behind his ear, looking more like a contractor than a billionaire. You came, he said, and the genuine surprise in his voice almost made her smile. I'm here to see the space. Nothing more, of course. He set down his tape measure. I had my assistant pull together some comps, market analysis, demographic data. He gestured to a folder on the windowsill. Whatever you need to make an informed decision. Sloane picked up the folder, flipped through it. The research was thorough, detailed, the kind of homework that took real time and effort. You did this yourself? Had help, but yes. I wanted to show you I'm serious. He shoved his hands in his pockets, looking oddly vulnerable. About the partnership. About changing. About all of it. She walked the perimeter of the space, her mind already designing. A open kitchen here. Bar along this wall. Intimate seating by the windows. Have you been back to Aurelius since that night? Twice. His answer surprised her. Went for dinner. Sat at a different table. Watched how the staff interacted with guests. And I counted 17 instances of what I'd call disrespectful behavior in 2 hours. People snapping fingers, ignoring servers mid-sentence. One guy actually threw his napkin at a busboy. Reed's jaw tightened. I never noticed before. Now I can't unsee it. Sloane turned to face him fully. What did you do? The first time, nothing. I was still processing. He moved closer, stopped at a respectful distance. The second time, I spoke to the guy who threw the napkin, quietly. Told him that wasn't acceptable behavior. How'd that go? He told me to mind my own business. I told him I was making it my business. A slight smile. We had words. I may have suggested he find somewhere else to eat his overpriced steak. Despite herself, Sloane felt warmth spread through her chest. You caused a scene in my restaurant. Technically, Marcus asked him to leave. I just encouraged the decision. Reed ran a hand through his hair. The staff thanked me afterward. One of the servers, young guy, maybe 22, he said it was the first time he'd seen a customer stand up for them instead of joining in. That was good of you. It was the bare minimum of human decency, which I'm realizing is something I've been skating below for a while now. He met her eyes. I've been thinking about what you said. About seeing people. Really seeing them. It's harder than it sounds. Most worthwhile things are. They stood in the empty space surrounded by possibility. Sloane could feel the potential here. Not just for a restaurant, but for something bigger. A partnership that could reshape both their companies, both their lives, if she could trust him. If he could prove he meant everything he was saying. Tell me about your mother, she said suddenly. The real story, not the sanitized version. Reed's expression shifted, surprise, then something raw. Why? Because I need to know who you are when no one's watching. When there's no deal on the table. When it's just the truth. Reed was quiet for a long moment, his eyes distant. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than she'd ever heard it. Her name was Caroline. She grew up in a trailer park in Ohio. Put herself through nursing school while working 3 jobs. One of them was waitressing at a diner where my father used to eat breakfast. He smiled, but it was bittersweet. He was already wealthy. Old money. She was everything his family hated. Poor, uneducated, unsuitable. But he loved her anyway. What happened? They got married. His family cut him off completely. So my mother kept working, kept fighting even after I was born. She refused to let my father's money define her. Reed's throat worked. When I was 10, my grandfather died. Left everything to my father with the condition that he make something of himself. Prove he deserved the family name. That's where the pressure came from. Every dollar I made had to prove that my mother, that their love, was worth the sacrifice. That she wasn't the mistake his family said she was. He met Sloane's eyes. When she got sick, we had all the money in the world for treatment. But it didn't matter. She died anyway. And I've spent 20 years trying to prove she mattered. That her life meant something. Sloane felt tears prick her eyes. Reed, I became exactly what she would have hated. Someone who treats people the way my father's family treated her. His voice cracked slightly. It took you, standing there in your server's uniform, refusing to back down, to show me what I'd become. She closed the distance between them without thinking, her hand finding his. She mattered. Not because of anything you built or earned. She mattered because she existed, because she loved you, because she taught you somewhere deep down how to be better. I want to be better. His fingers tightened around hers. Not just for business. Not just to win you over. But because you made me remember who I used to be before I forgot that people aren't just obstacles or opportunities. Show me, Sloane whispered. Not with buildings or deals or partnerships. Show me that you see me. Not Sloane Bancroft, CEO, just me. Reed's free hand came up slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his fingers traced her jaw with unexpected gentleness. I see you. I see someone brilliant who puts on a uniform to understand her employees. Someone powerful who uses her power to protect people instead of crush them. Someone who could have destroyed me that night but chose to teach me instead. Reed, I'm falling for you. The words came out raw, honest. I know it's insane. I know it's too fast. I know I have no right to feel this way after everything. But standing here in this empty space, imagining building something with you, not just a restaurant but something real, I can't pretend I don't feel it. Sloane's heart hammered against her ribs. Every logical part of her brain screamed warnings. He was her competitor. He'd humiliated her. 3 days wasn't enough time to trust someone's change. But her heart, her traitorous, optimistic heart, whispered, "Something different. This is a terrible idea," she said, "probably the worst. We'll destroy each other. Or build something incredible." His thumb brushed her cheek. "I'm willing to risk it if you are." Sloane rose on her toes, closed the final distance between them, and kissed him. His arms came around her immediately, pulling her close, and she felt something click into place. Like all the sharp edges of her life had finally found somewhere to fit. When they broke apart, both breathless, Reed rested his forehead against hers. "So," he murmured, "is that a yes to the partnership?" Sloane laughed. "It's a yes to all of it. The restaurant, the partnership, us, all of it." "All of it," Reed repeated, wonder in his voice. "I can work with that. And in that empty Soho space, surrounded by possibility and second chances, two people who'd started as adversaries began building something neither had expected, a future together." So, what did you think of Reed and Sloane's story? Did he deserve a second chance, or should she have walked away? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I love hearing what you think. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more incredible tales of love, redemption, and unexpected encounters. And make sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Your support means everything. Like, comment, subscribe, and let's keep these amazing stories coming. See you in the next one. Tay.